Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. Apologies, no cast yesterday. Double dollops, though, again today to make up for it. I will try and get back on some even keel Sunday soon. Time is a rarity at the moment, so I'm doing my level best. And the vets are going to hate me. I'm going to have to run through it again one more time. For the benefit of the newer subscribers, still getting a lot of questions about how I like replays submitted. Basically, guys, there are three main ways. You can send me the direct link to the replay on the replay vault if you have it. Failing that, if you don't have it, you can send me the replay ID. I can do the rest myself. And failing that, if you're a bit new to FAF, you don't know how to do either of those things, you can host it on Dropbox or Mediafire or some other such hosting service and send me that as well. And you can send any of those things to my YouTube mail, in a forum mail, or PM me on FAF. Make sure I'm there, though, because I'm AFK a lot. Most importantly as well, you can send it to my Facebook page. That's probably the easiest place to get me. And incidentally, if you're not a big fan of hosting services or you haven't used one before, you can, I believe, attach the replay to a message on Facebook. And that'd be nice and easy. Someone did that today, so I believe it works fine. And incidentally as well, guys, getting an awful lot of replays sent to me of an hour and 10, hour and 20 plus matches. I love casting the epics, I really do, but my bread and butter, guys, are the 25-minute to 55-minute games. I just don't have the time to cast epics regularly. It's sort of a one-off, kind of supposed to be like once a fortnight kind of thing. So if we could have more that fit into that kind of criteria, you know, the sort I like with the epic comebacks from behind, the ACUs that nearly get killed but somehow manage to survive, all of that kind of jazz. You know, exciting non-stop action. That's what we like here. Anyway, got a custom 1v1 high-level job for you guys today. It's going to take place on Salt Rock Colony. The gloves are off, the giant mechanical booties are on, the quantum gateways are online, and all of the cacti are now on fire. So let's head on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. Salt Rock Colony, of course, a seriously interesting map. Love casting games, hate playing on this map, but love casting games on it. It's so tough because of the proximity to the ocean, the sea, the bases are. It's really tough because the commander's pretty close. What is it? It's a 10 by 10k map, I think. So your commanders can just waltz up here, as they often do in the first sort of 5 or 6 minutes. There's unlikely to be any navy on the field, so they can operate with more or less impunity, get in there and start destroying you, or you could just start destroying your opponent's base with the ACU. And you've really got to take advantage of it, because if you don't do it, your opponent will, especially at this level. And of course, why do they do that? Because they can just back off into the ocean and not worry about any reprisals with the whole Navy game. So you have to have pretty darn good ACU control on this one, and that is why I hate it. But it's great to watch matches on. Anyway, let's take a look at the players over here in the west. In the blue corner, it's BC Blackheart going baby blue, and his very customary UEF opening first and second land. And over in the east, his opponent in mellow yellow, reminding us that it is not a ladder match, going Seraphim, it's Vortex, and he's also opening first and second land. So these guys matching each other step for step, and we're already seeing a couple of harassment units come out from Blackheart's side of the map. We've got a Mech Marine and a Snoop on their way over here, going to start looking for some engineers, and will probably run into a Selene. The question is, will they see it? Yes, they will. The Snoop revealing that just before he gets a visual, so no cloaky as yet. Of course, all the time that they're embroiled in going after that scout, that's time that could be spent looking for an engineer. There is an engineer right here. It's not currently on an expansion mission. That is just a reclaim NG for the moment. It's part of Vortex's build, obviously, get initial bit of reclaim first rather than going for those mexes. I would always rather go for a mex first, but I'm sure that's wrong because this guy has a 2000 plus rating, and I don't. I have a 1000 rating. So but yeah, he's not going to find any engineers to kill now with that Mech Marine. He is looking for that Selene. That has now cloaked. Take a look at things from Blackheart, but you can see the small little flame. I did not know that. Obviously, when it's damaged, well, it makes sense, I guess. If it's damaged and you've got smoke and fire pouring out, it's going to disturb your cloak, so that is visible. That's quite interesting. But anyway, there was a Tham running cover. That's why that Mech Marine and that Snoop have backed up. There is now, though, a striker on the field with its own Snoop. That Snoop got popped. Striker is going to have the advantage of a few extra base hit points, 20 to be precise, and a little bit of micro there as well from Blackheart means that that Striker emerges victorious. How very exciting it is indeed. And Vortex pushing north a little bit quicker than Blackie so far. I think it's fair to say he's got some units up here that's going to do wonders to halt the expansion of Blackheart. There are a couple of strikers in the Snoop though in place already, but you just get the feeling that that expansion is going a little bit better up top for Vortex. One mech's already in place, and he's already queuing up the land factory and some PD and looks like a radar as well. Yep, so if that all gets is allowed to get online, Vortex will be in pretty good shape up top. Blackheart, meanwhile, throwing together a plasma cannon, a little bit of point defense there, so that will operate as a nice fail-safe point to back up to if he finds himself in trouble. I suspect he won't, though. I suspect he'll want to push on into Vortex's territory. And Blackheart, of course, not one to walk by any mass and leave it still standing. He's going to reclaim it. He is literally the Cookie Monster, only with mass. There he goes. He's going to suck all of that up. Vortex not quite as concerned. He wants to get in and start putting some pressure. It's like pressure, but with a B. Some pressure on Blackheart, who's going to continue to hoover stuff up. Let's see how these guys are doing on reclaim at the moment. 885 for Vortex and 1500 for Blackheart. So Blackheart nearly double the reclaim already, just 5 minutes in. He wants to keep that advantage, and it really is one of the strong aspects of Blackheart's playstyle, which makes him so difficult to play against. He has amazing reclaim ability. Meanwhile, up top though, things looking pretty good for Vortex. He's got a nice little harassment crew to get together up here. Lots of FAMs and the odd Zui, and if he can get down here and disrupt production of this northern base that Blackheart's trying to put together, that could be really annoying. But he's matching Blackheart step for step at the moment. He must be giving up some ground somewhere, because it seemed to be 35 mass per tick between these two guys. That might have been reclaim operating in Blackheart's score for a moment there. These guys wailing away on each other. Blackheart the first to enter the yellow, 8,500 hit points left on the clock to the 92, 9,100 there for Vortex. Blackheart backing away, making sure he's near the shoreline just in case he should decide to slip back into the water at any time. But it's really quite useful for Blackheart what he's managed to do here. He's embroiled Vortex in a little bit of com-on-com action down here that's kept the fighting over here and kept, more importantly, Vortex away from his mass points over here. Meanwhile, Blackheart can pick all of these off at leisure. So that's what's keeping his head above water in this, despite the fact that Vortex has expanded very nicely indeed up top, and he's going to get a PD together in good time here. I don't think these Thams are going to stand any chance of breaking through, and that means that this is semi-secure, at least for the meantime, up here at the top there for Vortex. And onward Blackheart presses though, taking out yet another mass point, going after this one right at the edge here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 mechs is down, a fifth now threatened. But Vortex looking to repay in kind. He's also on the march and going to be following a similar kind of trajectory. Neither of these guys bothering to take their hydros. I guess that's quite a difficult thing to hold on to on this map. You expect a commander to be running his way down here around the edge, so why expend the resources? Much better to spend it on T1 PGens, I guess, at least at the beginning of this game when you know that the ACU is coming your way. Blackheart busy boshing away at these T1 units as they come in trying to harass the commander. 7,600 hit points left in the tank there for Blackheart's ACU. Not really able to start doing any damage to the main base though. And importantly, this little PD has been taken out. It's not surprising. We have seen some Zuis in the mix down here for Vortex. There aren't any left alive at the moment, but they were put to good use, knocking that little defensive position out of commission. Small group of strikers here in the meantime have seemingly broken through down here. That one striker pushes forward. One shot would have been enough to take down that radar, but it didn't get into range. That PD doing its job very nicely indeed. But the trouble is for Blackheart, that northern position looking nice and strong there for Vortex. And there is a naval factory under construction, or it's actually finished and building units, but Blackheart won't let that go, and that could be interesting. That's quite a large mass expenditure. And Vortex no longer has access to that. That has been wasted. Blackheart's surely going to reclaim that engineer as well. Yes, indeedy. So Blackheart being a real douche here at minute 9.5. Vortex, in the meantime, picking up the odd mechs over in Blackheart's territory and continuing to push with quite a nasty-looking group of T1 now. That forward land factory has fallen for Blackheart, and he hasn't got a lockdown here at all. Large group of build capacity on a reclaim mission now threatened. Vortex should dispatch just 1 or 2 THAMs to deal with that, I feel. His attention is elsewhere. This is not looking good for Blackheart. Yes, he's managed to do a little bit of damage with the ACU, but it's 37 mass or 33 mass to 13 now in favor of Vortex. Vortex going to rebuild that naval yard. I like that play. He's ahead in the mass game now. And this is a large group of T1. He's going to want to be careful, though. There are a couple of plasma cannons in place for Blackheart, but he has Thuys, most importantly, so he should be able to knock them out of commission. The question is, he might not know about this one at the back here. He's being careful nonetheless, and Blackheart could be in real trouble here. 10th minute of this game. And even the north, you expect somewhere to be going well for Blackheart, since he seems to be losing on the bottom, but it doesn't seem to be so. He seems to be losing on every front right now. And soon this forward northern land factory could be threatened. Just needs to take out that PD, but he's got the Zeus to do it. And look at the amount of map control. Everything's yellow, and Blackheart says, I'm too bad here. Not happy with his performance, and he can't do a lot with his ACU now either. He's down to 3,000 HP on the clock. Where is he headed exactly? The problem is as well, that naval factory, 75% done now. That's going to be starting to produce the odd T1 submarine, I imagine, and then he really will be stuck. He'll be forced back onto land. Meanwhile, though, nice switch up to the air game for Blackheart, doing exactly the right thing, forcing Vortex's ACU into the water with those bombers. And luckily, that build capacity that was hovering around here didn't get hit too badly. There's a lot of it still alive, in place to rebuild these mexes. But the odd unit just coming through still for Vortex, so Blackheart unable to set up shop at the moment. He's threatened on all fronts. Look at him hemmed into this tiny portion of the map, with the exception of this ACU that's going to march out of the water and just pick up some reclaim and a mechs. Is Vortex bottlenecking power or something? Yes, he is. So that is playing havoc at the moment with his mass income as well. He needs to get back on the power production. You can see he's dispatched a bunch of engineers down to the bottom, and that's going to take a while to build this hydro, especially with the income troubles he's having. I wonder if that's going to be at all significant. It'd be interesting if that lets Blackheart back into the game. Blackheart not doing too badly on power for the moment, but you can see the flux on Vortex's mass income there really is helping Blackheart out considerably. That's going to stem the tide of T1 construction that's been pouring in this way for Vortex. And now Vortex starting to bring in some mobile anti-air into the mix. Reactionary to this bomber spam that's been coming out from Blackheart. But I don't think that's going to be a decisive blow down there, and somehow stream of units successful up top for Blackheart, breaking out of that small containment group that Vortex has set up here. So Blackheart not out of this yet. He He's still in with a chance. Vortex, though, full health, ACU. What's he planning? Nothing. He's going for a stroll. He's going to come in here around the back, and I think that's the best play, really, for the moment. There's no reason he shouldn't be in there, taking out mass points, taking out P-gens. If he can take out a bunch of power, that will really hurt Blackheart. But Blackheart, amazingly, look at that. He's taken another 25% of the map back to get back on even terms. He still needs to pick up all of these mexes, but you can see he's working on it. He's managed to keep quite a fair few engineers alive as well, despite the positioning and where it got caught. Now we're seeing some T1 subs on the field for Vortex. That is indeed going to push Blackheart out of the water back onto land, but he's like, you know what, fine, I'll just pick up this mex. Dum-de-dum-de-da. And this little battle for the top, you really get the feeling is going to be pretty crucial. Meanwhile, Vortex emerges behind Blackheart's base with his ACU and starts going after some of the T1 P-gens. Don't have any overcharge yet for Vortex, so he won't be overcharging any of these structures. Finally got a hydrocarbon, though. Where is he at power-wise? That's kept him just above the breadline, just about. Vortex looking to nullify this Northern Army. The problem for him, though, is Blackheart's ACU is in the area. That's going to add an enormous amount of firepower to that northern little garrison there. Nice overcharge. Only takes out one unit, though. That's going to look like a win for Blackheart, and I think that was probably a bad decision to engage there. He saw an opportunity, or he thought he saw an opportunity, and he went for it. But that's a costly loss. He should be turtling up here, trying to make sure that this northern base is as impregnable as it can be. Well, he does as much damage to Blackheart's base as he can with his ACU and continues to push with spam. But somehow, Blackheart has reached T2. That is impressive, and I'm going to hazard a guess that it's going to be Reclaim that's got in there. Excuse my kitchen falling apart behind me if that came through on the cast. But Blackheart is now having economic woes thanks to Vortex attacking all of the power grid. You can see him bottlenecking power there, but Reclaim, borderline 11,000. Vortex sitting on just 6,000. You can see the difference that that has made. And Vortex still currently operating off T1 everywhere. So Vortex suddenly finding himself facing a mass and tech deficit. Unbelievable. 23 or 27 odd to 31. It's fluctuating quite heavily. So it doesn't look like Blackheart has actually gained any significant advantage on the eco yet. Beg your pardon, but he certainly has got the advantage in tech. We'll see if that's at all significant. What he needs to do is he needs to force Vortex away from his base, back into the water somehow. Wouldn't be a bad idea perhaps to start spamming some bombers. He's got the interceptor coverage. There's not a great deal of commitment to the air game for Vortex, but Vortex has got now control of the waters. You can see these T1 subs everywhere. Don't think he needs to be building much more of that. Frigates, sorry, down here, these two, and subs up top. And I was expecting him to be building pillars, in fact, but he's not. And that's not a bad shout. The Riptides, yes, they're expensive, but they're very good, of course, against T1. And also, they're an excellent counter for naval units. So, not a bad decision there from Blackheart. And a couple of Riptides making a nice run by here, getting in place to cause some real damage on these vulnerable mexes at the southeastern portion of this island. Still though, Vortex alive and kicking on virtually full health in Blackheart's base. You do a lot worse than to knock out that hydrocarbon. Once again, Map control looking pretty good for Vortex, so Blackheart not out of the woods by any way, shape or form. Northern Land Factory out of commission. Blackheart's ACU pushed back into the water, down to around 10,000 HP. But the problem is now there are subs in the water. He of course cannot retaliate fire. He could reclaim them if he could get close enough to them, but I imagine Vortex will be focusing on this portion of the map. He won't allow Blackheart to get that close. And steadily, bit by bit, that tank is diminishing, and Blackheart trying to get back to safer territory, but Vortex shadowing his movements the whole way. And look at the control that Vortex has got back. Managed to defeat those riptides that came past on the run by. Blackheart is going to have to get out of here somehow and hope that for some good overcharging. Beautiful overcharge there, just as I said. He's also pushing up with some strikers of his own. He needs to defeat this small band of troops. There are more pouring in, though, as we speak. He needs to be able to keep that ACU on land. Can't do anything against those subs. And now Blackheart trying a little counter push at the bottom, led by what looks to be 4 riptides. Just plowing through this T1. Really think that that upgrade might prove pretty significant in this one. Certainly extending the time in this game. If he hadn't managed to get the reclaim together to get that upgrade, I would hazard a guess to say it would be as good as over by now. Look how deadly those riptides are, carving their way through all this T1. 20 kills on one, 20 kills on another, 12 and 18. Finally, Vortex going to focus on that Hydro. Manages to take it out. What's that going to do to Blackheart's power? It's not going to leave it in good shape, let's be honest. Minus 140 net. But needs to be careful here. There are 1 or 2 triads up here. Only 111 HP on that one, but the other one's on full health, and there's nothing near it to threaten that anyway. But look what this merry band of riptides has done. It's pushed Vortex right back to the edge of his base. And another little run by at the back here, going after the T1 P-Gens. They survive to finish off that Hydro. There's enough here if they decide to push for it, surely, to take that out.
Under attack.
Once again, Blackheart under fire. Oh, sorry, no, Vortex under fire. Over on Blackheart's side of the map. But look at this. Blackheart re-establishing a small base up top. Even finding time to send the odd units up north, T2-wise. This is a real example of T2 power right here. So many people always say that T2 doesn't affect the game enough. Well, just look at the difference that these riptides are making. But now Vortex has made transition to T2 as well. He's starting to produce Ilshivas. Will the pendulum swing again? Eco-wise, both very similar, except, of course, for the 8k that Blackheart has banked in terms of reclaim. And, of course, Riptide is incredibly mobile on this map. They can go anywhere. And they will do. Just one defensive PD in place at this northern base. Sorry, there is a second one. That one's not walled, however. But if Vortex loses this portion up here, he will be in major trouble. having looked so sturdy in this map, in this game. He must be kicking himself. He must be thinking by now that he should have put this to bed by now. How much reclaim are you at, says Vortex. Enough, says Blackheart. Indeed he is. And look at that nasty little band of Riptides. PD opening up on them. Blackheart probably not aware. Actually, he is aware he's got radar coverage, so he'd know that it's not defended with wall sections. Get in there and knock that out. Of course, there is one further back here. He doesn't want to get too close and take direct fire from both of them. And Vortex having lost that naval factory as well, thanks to those Riptides. This is just an absolute disaster for him. This is why Blackheart is so good. Finishing him off is just ridiculous. These Riptides still in play, making their way back around the fringes of Vortex's base. Going to make another assault on this section of resourcing down here. 6 mass points vulnerable, having just been rebuilt as well. Some build capacity back here from Vortex, trying to spam together PD to counter these Riptides, but he needs to strike some kind of killing blow, and soon. We're starting to see some mobile missile launchers on the field, which I like. Going to range some of these triads. Finally, some Ilshivers in the mix now, trying to gun down these Riptides. Blackheart's attention elsewhere. Riptide's taking a lot of artillery fire. I think that might finally be the end of that merry band of Riptides. And let's have a round of applause for those guys, man. Round of applause. They have done their duty and then some. And look at this. Units now pressing the northern edge of Vortex's base for Blackheart, having decapitated, dismembered Vortex's resourcing option up here. He's cut off this northern base. He's got units in between. Vortex was pinning all his hopes, I think, on some kind of ground gaining exercise down here with his ACU and this band of troops. But I don't think he's going to have too much success. I just can't see it right now, and the longer this goes on, the worse things are going to get. I just don't see any way back. And look how the pendulum has swung in the mass game. 33 to 17 now. I think that's probably a minor drop off in power. There we go. 33 to 26 looked more reasonable. But you think where Blackheart was just a few moments ago, and all the time more Riptides being pumped out with that increased advantage, increased mass option that Blackheart has. And now finally this northern base for Vortex is kaput. Vortex must be absolutely livid. And we've got T2 air as well on the field now for Blackheart. He's producing Starlifters. Looks like he's picking up his ACU and taking it somewhere. Where is he taking it? This way for the moment. We do have some Stingers on the field as well, so we could be seeing some gunship play soon. Vortex trying to break out though from his base, once again heading north. Lots of T1, mixes though with a couple of Ilshivers up front. gets stuck in, he might be able to take this back. The only problem is he's going to need mobile flak. He's not going to be able to contend with the air game. That's too many interceptors on the field. He's now behind in eco. Stingers being deployed down here. There is quite a lot of mobile anti-air guns though in this mix. That's a hangover from the earlier engagement where all the bombers came out for Blackheart when Vortex thought he, or must have thought that he had him. Blackheart did an emergency switch up to bombers. Very nicely done indeed. But now all of these units having to back up to base. Get under cover of some static anti-air while he starts to produce some Ioshivas. There we go. Mobile T2 flak rolling off the conveyor belt there for Vortex. Interceptors going after those Stingers. If he can knock those out, he can breathe a little easier. Doesn't want to lose all of his inties. That's the only problem. Blackheart definitely got the edge in the air as well as the land game. And is that pillars he's producing now? Looks to be pillars now, so heavy, tanky, direct fire goodness. A discounted rate from the Riptides that we've been seeing work so well for Blackheart for the last 15 minutes or so. Blackheart ace you up the front. And some build capacity down here. T2 wise for Vortex trying to put together some T2 PD, but both of them getting knocked out of commission and Vortex having to yield ground once again. He's trying to push in the middle. His whole strategy at the moment is be where Blackheart isn't. That's a great strategy, except when your opponent is everywhere. And you get the feeling that soon Blackheart will be. And we've got a transition to T3 for Blackheart, a stronger eco. And Vortex is going to struggle to keep up with that. He's pumping out Ilshivas still as best he can. More Riptides coming in around the edge of this group. Might as well give that a wider berth and get in around the back. Once again, a few submarines left on the field for Vortex. Now redundant though, really serving any purpose. Taking a little bit of a kicking in the middle from these Ilshivas, but just doesn't have enough units to deal any kind of crippling blow. My, how the game has turned. Looking to be about 66% coverage now for Blackheart. 66 of the map under UEF control. Vortex just looking a little fresh out of ideas right now. 53, 54, 55% done and climbing on that upgrade to T3 for that land factory. And when Titans appear on the field, that should surely be GG. Look at the amount of PD that Vortex is having to try and spam together. That is not a good look. He's having to place them everywhere because of these Riptides. Mobile missile launchers coming to play a little bit here for Vortex in this northern group of units. He's trying to range some of these mexes. And there isn't any real turtle power up here for Blackheart. Vortex having a little bit of a cheeky scout there with an inti, so you should see that it's not particularly heavily defended. He decides to press up top, and that is all T1 for Blackheart. That's going to struggle against the Ilshivas. And T3 has been spotted. It's literally just finished, And it's actually Spearheads and Percivals that are being produced first. Guess he doesn't need help with the spam. He just needs to knock out those Ilshivas. That is a large group of T1, but certainly shouldn't be too much for Blackheart to deal with now. And Vortex not even thinking about following suit into that upgrade. He just doesn't have the mass. Look at it. Blackheart now doubling the mass. So minor success up here with this little roving band, but that's been cut off. It's lost the Ioshiva, so this gunship, this Stinger, can now go in and have free reign on this little band of troops. They might be able to knock out that factory, but Vortex is going to have to push. He decides he's got to go for a kill if it kills him. And he's got his ACU in the mix. He's got an awful lot of T1. How many HP does Blackheart have? He's rocking 1800 at full whack. He's down to 1700, 70,500. Let's say 1800, 18,000 of course. He's on 70,500. Skirting around trying to avoid that Zooey fire. There's an awful lot of Zooeys in this mix. I'm guessing you'll probably wish he had a lot more. Beautiful overcharge there from Vortex. Stingers out no for Blackheart, starting to primary Vortex's commander. Volleys still being dodged very nicely indeed from Blackheart. He does go into the yellow, 75% of his HP left at 12,500. Vortex chasing him down. He's still ahead, which means he's in pretty good shape. 13,500. Needs to take as many HP off Blackheart as he can though, and he is really running out of T1 very rapidly indeed. Titans on the field now, and stuff starting to primary Vortex's comm. Surely the best Vortex can hope for now is some kind of draw. There is a Percy alive back here, which is taking huge chunks of damage out of Vortex's commander. He goes down to the red, 1800 HP, manages to overcharge that Percival, but down under 1,000, and that's going to be game. The GG well played goes out, and Vortex's comm goes up in smoke. And look at that, Starlifter coming in with some emergency T1, which won't be needed there from Blackheart. Very nicely done, Blackheart. That was one hell of a deficit he was coming back from in terms of eco, in terms of map control, but a beautiful switch up to bombers there. The last moment kept him in the game long enough to finish that upgrade. Also excellent reclaim, which provided the eco for that upgrade, and then of course those Riptides, which really did turn the game for him. Excellent play, lovely to see. Commiserations, Vortex, you did play well, sir. More to come from me today, in fact, so stay tuned. In the meantime, as always, stay safe. This is Gyle signing out.